Okay, today we're gabbing with Abby Bonadies, the flowchart queen of TikTok, who has become a dear friend over the past year. We hung out a lot at BravoCon, made some core memories there together, and there will absolutely be more to come. Abby has blown up on TikTok for her whiteboard flowcharts, where she basically explains how different celebrities can be connected back to one another. Some of these webs are really crazy. You should go check them out. She talks a lot about Bravo, and she just knows her shit. Abby, thanks for doing this. How are you?
Good. Oh my God, what an intro. I'm so excited to be here, especially hanging out as friends, which is
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly. No, it's been so fun. And before we jump into the shows and kind of the latest goings on there, you've been to two Bravo related events recently that I wanted to
Oh
just like
yeah.
hear about your experience about. So the first is that you saw Ariana in Chicago on Broadway. Tell me about it. When did you go?
Yeah, it was amazing. I went last Saturday, so it was her first Saturday night performance. We sat in the mezzanine, and I have been very lucky enough to see Chicago twice beforehand. I did see Erica Jane, and I
Okay.
saw it with Rumor Willis after she was on Dancing with the Stars and did it as well.
And you're a
Ariana,
Dancing with the Stars queen. Like that's your
obsessed.
shit. Yeah, exactly.
Obsessed. So whenever that premieres, I'll be back here to talk about it. But she truly was like fabulous. Like it is like such a specific type of role that isn't, Elphaba from Wicked or anything
Right.
like absurd. It is just fun, really like cute and funny. And she was all of those things. Her voice is beautiful and her dance moves, it's Bob Fosse. It's like little fun movements and she
Yeah.
crushed it. Like she really did and she worked really well with the cast. Like it was so
When
good.
you were there, does it feel how much the audience feels like they're there for her specifically? Because obviously she, as we saw, like her first week was like a record-breaking week for Chicago,
Yeah,
like their biggest week in like 20 years or something crazy. Did it
for
feel like there
sure.
were a lot of Bravo people there, or was it like a lot of just like general tourists?
There were definitely a lot of Bravo people there. The bathroom lines were really long, and obviously the girls chat in the bathroom
Yeah.
line. And this one woman turned back around to me and she was like, we were waiting on the bathroom, like down by the orchestra. And she was like, "Are you a Bravo fan?" I was like, "Yes." "Are you?" And she was like, "Yes, I'm just like scanning the
Oh,
audience to see if anyone's here." So it was cute to be like, "Is Lala here? Is Lisa Vanderpump here?" No one was there that we knew of, but you definitely felt like that camaraderie. And when she came on, the place like exploded
I love
with
that.
applause.
I love that so much. I'm going in a month with Real Moms of Bravo, so we'll be
Yes,
talking about it. But I'm so excited. Like it's just so cool. Like
it's so
it's the real
cool.
deal, you know? It really
It
is.
really
Like
is.
and then a week ago, you went to 54 Below to see Luann's cabaret show. I've been like four times, but I never paid to see it, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. It was like just press things like that. How was it? How's she doing? You also like had a video go viral from it that got
Yeah.
press pickup. So tell me all about that.
Yeah, it was my first time seeing the actual cabaret show live, which was like honestly it's hilarious. Like
Yeah.
we love Luann. She's in my like Housewives Mount Rushmore, but like she like can't actually really sing, which is the best part of it all. Like she's just hilarious up there, living her best life. She looked unreal. Like you thought she looked good on Ultimate Girls Trip
Right.
in person, sitting right there, like behind her. Like she looked absolutely stunning. Her Giovanni outfits were thriving, and it was just like a fun mix of
Yeah.
her classic songs, but also I think one of my favorite parts was the fact that during when she sings like "Give Them Something to Talk About," she has on screens every headline that's ever been about her. The video of her getting arrested, like all of her headlines about Tom, like so funny. But the
We love a
video
self-aware queen. We love a self-aware queen. No, it's
that
like
was honestly the whole thing.
and I feel like that's part of like her arc that I've appreciated so much about her, that she's gone from this like completely unself-aware person who's like very uppity to
Totally.
leaning in and being on the joke, which like I that's part of the appeal, right? You know?
Exactly. And I think that's actually kind of the premise of the whole show is she's
Yeah.
completely in on the joke. So I loved that. And the video you're talking about, Matt Rogers was in the audience and he
Hmm.
asked a question about some rumor he had heard, which I hadn't heard yet. So it was news to me as well, that the new New York cast for season, I guess it would be 15, would be a mix of the new ladies and the old ladies. Old ladies is not a great phrase.
I'm
Legacy.
picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, exactly.
um, And he basically asked if that was going to be the case. And she said she was basically like, I'm up for it, maybe. But then she hinted that she's been in talks about a bunch of other shows, including dating shows. So
Okay,
we'll see.
okay. I feel like my read on that is like she would love if that was true, but
Would
it's
love.
not.
And she knows it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Like and like we would all love that. We would all love like a mix, but like there's no
For
way they're
sure.
doing that, right?
And maybe they'll do a girl strip that's
Yes,
mixed,
that would be great.
but
That would be very smart. That would be
I
very
feel like
smart.
that would be fun because
That's the
then
move.
that is the move. And because in the question he asked, it was like it didn't include Jenna, it didn't include maybe Aaron or someone, Sai. And it's like we still need to give them another chance.
Yeah, I kind of think Jenna's not coming back just like by her own volition. Like I think obviously
Yeah,
Bravo would love if she came back, but
right.
yeah, but and also like they've said that like they're like quote unquote casting rich apparently. So like they're casting more people. So I don't know how it would work with all the quote unquote
Yeah.
old ladies that to take your words.
Whoops, whoops.
No,
You're
but
not
yeah,
old, you're
it's
beautiful.
exciting. And then it was a really great clip. And like you could just tell that like these ladies like they know how to play the game in terms of like okay this is gonna get shared, how am
Yep,
I gonna like let me send a message to Bravo by how I react to this
for
question,
sure. Because
right?
obviously they saw it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the shows that are on right now. I want to talk
Yes.
about Beverly Hills. We
Yeah.
had new episodes of Beverly Hills and Miami last night. The Barcelona trip is ending on Beverly Hills. And one I want to know where you are with Anna Marie because going into the trip, it was like she barely had any screen time. She just kept
Right.
talking about the esophagus every time we saw her. She'd had like one home scene so far. It was a really like kind of
Right.
weird treatment that she was getting. A kind of
Definitely.
impression that I got and a lot of people got was like she was kind of giving us nothing, and that's why we were seeing so
Yeah.
little of her. And then Andy kept saying like, "You'll see a different side of her on the trip. Like, give her a chance, whatever." Do you feel like you saw a different side to her? How are you feeling about her after the Barcelona trip?
Honestly, I don't feel like I saw like a completely different
Me
side of
neither.
her. I like sure she seems nice and all those things. Like she's a little tough, which like
Not
is her
always nice, I would say,
not
but
always nice, but like she seems fine and it just felt like a force in the friendship because the
yes.
rest of them are legitimately friends, which like Sutton kind of closed the episode saying like that they felt like family and seeing her up there with all of them, like it just doesn't match.
I know. And like it's just and then she was on Watch What Happens Live, I think like last week, and it was just sort of
Yeah.
like I just don't feel like I'm getting that much genuine authenticity from
Yep.
her. Like it feels like she's laughing at the things that she feels like she should laugh about. She's like reacting in the way that she feels like a housewife would react.
Right.
It doesn't feel like super like even when she came at Crystal, it was sort of like I'm doing this because I need a moment and she's an easy
Yes.
target out of all the
It's like,
other ladies.
yeah, she's like, it's too staged. Like she's done too much studying. Like Kelly
Yeah,
told Kristen on Girls Trip,
literally. Yeah.
which I didn't think was the case for Kristen, but maybe it is in this scenario because Anne Marie or Anna Marie, I don't know which one
Yeah,
it is.
I keep on going back and forth.
But she definitely was like, I need to have my moment. I need to have like one story established. And
Yeah.
it was just like forced.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to be surprised by her that because Andy kept reminding us, and I was just sort of like,
Right.
I don't think she really delivered. I don't think they really delivered on that
No,
promise.
I agree.
The other kind of through line of this trip has been the appeal on Erica's like earrings case was reversed,
Yeah.
and she kind of brought it up to the group, expecting them to be like, oh my God, that's amazing. We're so
Wonderful.
sorry about
Yeah.
how we treated you about these earrings. Like you were right. And it was kind of crickets and
Yeah.
they didn't really apologize for that. And then, that was an interesting moment. But then when they
Yeah.
scattered Merce in a purse's ashes
Merce in a
and
purse.
Erica took her moment where they all sort of went around the horn and they were like saying
Yeah.
things that were on their minds and whatever. Erica, I kind of love that Erica was like, you
It's
know what? I have had a lot of pains
hilarious.
in the past fucking year, and it's because of you bitches. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like the Erica that I love, but I also think I'm wondering if you think that like she's hoping for something that will never come from these women.
100%. I don't think they're ever gonna give her the apology she wants, but I think they'll give her enough recognition
Right.
eventually that like yeah, that was a really shitty time for you to go through. And like, we needed to get our facts, but we're sorry for whatever it did to you, is probably all she's really looking for. But her delivery is so like
Yes.
tough.
And it's very black and white too, because it's like, yeah, like, did they go really hard on her? Yes. But was it mostly valid that they were going hard on her
Yeah.
at the time? Yes. And like, yeah, I think there is an apology in there for somebody like Garcelle or Sutton to make.
Yeah.
But I also, we saw in a preview for next week that like Garcelle kind of sticks to her opinion on
Yeah.
it. And I think that two things can be true. You know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
they were going after her because she was showing no sympathy for the victims.
Right.
And did maybe her character and some of the things like about her get caught in the crossfire there? Probably.
Probably.
But I don't know. It's hard because I think Erica's having a really good season. I just think
Me
that
too. So good.
she's like, this is a hill that she's gonna probably die on. And I'm curious. I'm sure they'll unpack it at the reunion, but it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think that, well, maybe now that the second part of Housewife and the Hustler is coming out, they'll
Oh my
see her
God.
sit down with the victims. But like, to your point, like they're never going to apologize for what they stood for in that
Right.
moment, but they maybe will give her a little empathy on like what mental toll it took on her.
Yeah.
I just don't know like when or if we're going to get that. To your point, maybe it will be at the reunion where Erica, they'll kind of show it
We can
all
talk through it.
and exactly.
Yeah.
But I agree, she's having a fantastic season. She's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I'm like loving her this season. I think she's fully been sort of redeemed in my eyes in
Yeah,
terms of
me
like
too.
I think she has done some of the work and like she has has she shown complete like contrition for everything? No, but
No.
I also don't really want that from her necessarily.
And that's not her vibe. Like,
Yeah,
she's never been like a super empathetic,
right.
lovey, huggy lady. Like, she's a tough cookie, and that's what she's sticking to.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sutton and Kyle's friendship, I've said it many
Oh,
times. It's very sisterly. It's very like
yes.
it's been very topsy-turvy. It's like the moment you think that they're good and they're having this moment of bonding, like before they go
For
spread the
sure.
ashes or when Kyle hugs her, we cut to a confessional, usually from Kyle, where she's like shading Sutton. I think
Yeah.
there was something I haven't seen the after show from this week's episode, but I think
Yeah.
she said something kind of shady about Sutton again. And then Sutton on Watch Happens Live was like a classic Kyle, like making fun of me.
Yeah.
I go so back and forth
Me
over like being
too.
like, okay, they're just like kind of sisters. Like she's kind of like a
Right.
stand-in for Kathy or something, honestly. But then I also am sometimes like, God, Kyle, like just like let it rest for like 2 seconds.
I agree. I think it is like one of those situations where when you have someone that's legitimately that close to you and something is going on in your life, you take it out on the person that's closest to you.
Totally.
And she has the Mo thing going on. Morgan is like a very new budding friendship. So she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers
Yeah.
there. And she's already comfortable with Sutton and is so close with her. So I think she's taking, and of course, she lost her friend. Like, so she's taking a little of that out on Sutton, which is not fair, but that does happen like in
Hmm.
friendships a lot.
I
And it's a
know.
bummer both ways.
You know it is. And I almost feel like when people are like such good friends outside of the show and they're on this
Mm-hmm.
show, like like the dynamic that they bring to the show initially is just sort of like how it's gonna stay. It's like there isn't that much room for nuance when you have 42
Right.
minutes and there's just one friendship and like their dynamic on the show is just Kyle kind of like making fun of Sutton, Sutton getting upset, Kyle apologizing for it and being there for
Apologizing.
her in the
Yeah.
moment, and then making fun of her again. Like that's just sort of the cycle that we're
It's
in with them.
it's their shtick.
And I'm guessing it's more complex out of the show, but I'm curious if there's going to be a point where like Sutton kind of gets fed up with it and like gets fed
Yeah.
up with being made fun of and like kind of takes her power back at some point with Kyle in a full way.
I bet there's a chance that she does a little bit of that at the reunion. After watching all the confessionals, after knowing how hard of a season
Right.
it is for Sutton too, like we never knew like any of this from Sutton. Her
Right.
emotion, her ex-husband, like her dad, like she's barely talked about any of that. So I think that she might have a little power in her when
I
she gets to
know.
the reunion.
I hope so. I hope so because
Me
we've
too.
seen like sometimes Sutton can back down to the reunion and
Yeah.
it can be frustrating. So I hope that she says
Yes.
her piece. The
Me
other
too.
the episode ended with all of a sudden we're back in Beverly Hills. And
Right.
that happens on these trips sometimes. You're like, it's like they have this final dinner and then all of a sudden they're like back
home.
right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're back at Kyle's house. Dorit comes over with her, her casual, whatever Fendi baseball hat and Louis
Yep.
Vuitton
Perfectly
shirt. Like
blonde hair.
that's just her casual look, And they start talking about Mauricio immediately. And to
Yeah.
me, it just sort of like, okay, we're back from the trip. There's just like a few more episodes left in this season before the reunion. We know they picked back cameras, cameras back up when the news broke of their
Yep.
separation. So like to me, it's like, okay, we're hitting the ground running when it comes to Kyle and Mauricio, and like kind
Yep.
of the seeds that have been planted. Now they're beginning to sprout, I think, in terms of what we're going to see on the show. What did you
Agreed.
make of that conversation that they had to end the episode?
I feel like I actually felt a little badly for Dorit because I feel
Mm,
like Kyle wasn't totally, she gave what she has been giving with, and
right,
Kyle's my number one, but like I think Dorit is looking for Kyle to like be like, I'm heartbroken, this is what's going on, like I'm really really upset and I need you as a friend, because Dorit just wants her friend back.
right.
And I feel like there's still like some, and I don't know if it was still her being nervous about what to say on camera because they
Mm,
weren't sure, to your point, that the separation was announced yet or not. But I definitely think it got a little deeper, but it wasn't there yet.
I agree. It was kind of a rehashing of what we had said before the trip,
Right.
but and I wonder if she's really opening up in a full way to like the Morgan Teddy group chat crew.
Yeah.
And Dorit is kind of like second tier, but she's on
Yeah.
camera, so she gets this conversation,
I
and
agree. I think that Kyle, for the first time, I would say she's always put everything out there.
yeah,
This is her one thing where she is like, she's nervous about doing it on the show. So
definitely. Well,
she's,
because she knows that when the second she says it on the show, there's no coming back from it. It
it's
exists
real.
on camera forever, and I even wonder if still now in 2024, February
Yeah.
2024, there's still like we don't know we actually don't really know where her head's at right now. It
Right.
feels like the whole situation has been like generally pretty stagnant. Like they're still separated. They maintain
Exactly.
they're not going to get a divorce, but like it seems like they're not really connected emotionally right now. I don't know. It's like
Right.
it's so hard to tell.
It is so
Um,
hard to tell. And they still do, they did Aspen as a family. They did, I think, Italy as a
yeah,
family, which is all amazing for the girls and everything. But like for all of us viewers just watching from
right.
the outside, like we
But
don't really know
then
what's
it's
going
like they
on.
did those things as a family, but then Mauricio's out here like in bathrobes on a ski slope with Anita,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yep.
it's
And
so
Lele.
confusing, and like yeah, it's so confusing, and like a part of me like doesn't really care about those like little moments, and I'm like
Right.
I want a big update. Like, are we like staying together? Are we getting
Exactly.
divorced? I don't
And
know.
maybe for them, like, I don't know the logistics around what their divorce would entail, but like I would assume they have a lot of real estate
Yeah,
in their divorce. They have a lot of, she probably has a lot of stake in the agency. Like there's
yeah.
probably a lot they're figuring out.
Well, we saw in the episode there was that kind of throwaway 30-second scene of them
Yeah,
on the van where it's kind of probably one of those moments where they almost forget they're on camera a little bit because it's just the mounted
totally.
cameras in the corner of the van, and they're talking about like signing contracts and like, do you ask about what your husband asks you to sign? And Anne
Yeah.
Marie's like, no, yeah, I at least asked like my business manager. Sutton's like, always go over it. Erica's like, I learned my lesson. And Kyle's just like, well, I always have always signed what
Yeah, I
Mauricio
don't
asked
know
me to
what
sign.
pay,
He
what I
pays
make.
for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And so that's probably maybe that's a big factor in her not wanting to move forward with any sort of drastic
Yeah.
move, because it's like, oh fuck, like our lives are not just emotionally and familially entwined. It's like it's money. It's our money.
100%. And to her, she straight up said it. She
Yeah.
doesn't have experience in handling
Right.
that.
Right.
So,
Totally. Oof.
oh,
Okay. Well,
sad.
I know it's really sad, and like who was it? Whoever was on Watch What Happens Live with Sutton, Caitlin something. She made a
Yeah.
good point because she was just sort of like, this family has always just been sort of like the nucleus of the
Yep.
show, and it just we in some sick way kind of feel like we're part of it, and so that's
We
why to me
do.
it's so sad to find us in the place that we're at and to see
I
these things.
agree.
Yeah.
especially after we got Buying Beverly Hills and
I
everything, and
know. I
the
know.
extras like
And
love.
where's season 2 of that, by the way? That's been filmed for a long time.
I know. I would love to see
I'm
season 2 of
interested.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
so curious. Maybe they're waiting for this season of
Oh,
Housewives to be
maybe.
over.
Yeah,
Huh.
because I'd
We'll
also
get we'll
be
get the
very
trailer like the week
curious.
of the last reunion part or something.
Yep. I'd also be curious that I want to know the timing of when Beverly Hills was filmed versus the timing of when Buying Beverly Hills was filmed,
Well,
so we can see the
was
stories
it
combined.
on was it on the show or was it on maybe Watch What Happens Live or I can't keep track of where all these
I
clips
can't
come from.
either.
But there was a clip where they showed Mauricio being like, "Are you coming to the event with me tonight?" And Kyle was like, "The Buying
Oh,
Beverly Hills event from 7 to 11." I don't know if they have that in me. So there was some overlap in the filming for
yep.
sure, for sure.
Yes. And I think he was maybe filming during Dancing with the Stars. I'm
Mhm.
not sure because that's what they touted him as
Got
is
it.
Buying Beverly
Got it.
Hills.
Well,
They
then we'll
didn't
see.
really say,
Maybe they're
but
waiting to premiere the show so we see the other angle of it. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
kind of love that.
which I think is that would be fascinating, and that would be a huge calling card for that show. Which, like, I find it to be a fun watch, but like it needs
Right.
it needs like a hook, and that would be an
It
amazing
does.
hook. Please.
All right,
Yep.
we're in.
There we
You
go.
sold it.
We're in. All right. So after Beverly Hills comes Miami, which is having an incredible season. Like this
Incredible.
Mexico City trip is giving what it needs to give. You know,
Chaos.
I had Gertie on the podcast earlier this week to talk about it.
Yes.
How are you feeling about Real Housewives of Miami season 6?
I am feeling like people who do not watch Miami, what are
I
you
know.
doing?
I know.
Like
It's
it
crazy.
is unbelievable. They're another one of like they are legit friends.
Hmm.
And I think that it shows, unlike some other franchises where they're just kind of like thrown together and they make it work. Like these people are legit friends. They are giving everything. Fights, makeups,
Hmm.
comedy, like brands,
Concerts.
concerts. Like it is so good. And this, I agree, this Mexico City trip has been so good and so chaotic. That boat ride,
Oh my God. I'm calling it the gondola ride from hell.
gondola ride from hell. It
Yes.
was a disaster,
It
but
got
in the
even more
best
chaotic
way.
this week. Exactly. No. And no, you're right. This is a group of women who are friends. They also to me the sort of the through line with them is also the
Yeah.
fact that like they have this show that they really want to succeed and sort of get to the level of some of the other franchises in terms of viewership and
Yeah.
and attention because it is such a great show and they know it. And so they'll do things like all show up to Adriana's huge gay pride in
Right.
Mexico City performance, even though like three of them like do not like her and are having
Exactly.
really intense issues with her. They'll show up and cheer her on and like have that moment of solidarity because ultimately that you sort of get that like they feel overshadowed by Beverly Hills. They are back on Bravo where
Yep.
they want to be, but they're not really people aren't talking about it as much. And
Right. Like they're
that's
not on Watch What Happens Live as often.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of like what's under the cover, I think, with this group, which I think really makes sense. But anyway, Mexico City, we have the gondola ride from hell, Adriana's performance, Kiki versus Lisa, Larsa versus
Crazy.
Alexia kicked it off, which was a kind of unexpected, good little moment.
Yeah.
What's kind of standing out to you from this trip in terms of what you're taking away from it?
What is like just paining me is the Lisa thing.
I know
I
it's tough.
I feel really bad. I do, but like I'm so glad Julia at the end was like, you've got to snap out of it because they're like, get over it. And I know it's easier said than done, and they all understand it. Almost all of them have gone through divorces. They all get it. But like, she literally won't stop. And it is like, everyone's having a hard day. Gertie is like, hello.
Literally.
Yeah, we're all having
Yeah,
hard
she
days.
has this like tunnel vision. And again, I think it's one of those things where sort of like the subtext of it is like she was the star of the show last year because of her
Yep.
divorce that like was so shocking. It was the thing in the trailer. It was what we talked about all season. We were all like team
Yep.
Lisa. And I think she doesn't want to give that up in some
Yeah.
ways.
That's a
And
really
like
good point.
you know what I mean? Like I think she doesn't I think that's like that is sort of what's happening here where it's like there's other things that are more important, not more important. They're just like
But
they're
need
more
also
they're more
equivalent.
urgent, they're newer and like we can't have another full season about Lisa and Lenny. And
Right.
and yeah, that's going what's going on in her life and like I'm glad we're still hearing about it, but the other
Agreed.
women are also right in saying, listen, we can hear about this, but one, it can't dominate every dinner party we're at. And two, like you have to
Ooh,
ask other people about their issues as well.
100%. Asking your other friends how they are, like they still
Yeah.
have stuff going on. So
Yep.
that's what my biggest like
I know.
takeaway is, that like I'm nervous about the reunion, that the entire thing's gonna be like, in the words of Kiki, Lenny, Lenny, Lenny. And like I hope that Andy can kind of help reel it in and
Yeah.
not talk about
Be
Lenny
sort
the
of,
entire time.
he can be sort of the translator of like, oh, this is what everyone's saying. It's like, because she'll respect it coming from him, whereas the other
I
women, I think that
agree.
she kind of just kind of cut, she kind of like tries to assert herself over them. And it's like,
Right. She's like, you don't get it.
yeah,
I'm going through
right. And
this.
like the Lisa Kiki thing, it's just sort of like, because in the moment of that first fight where the juice box was
The
thrown, it's
just
like, yeah, like at first, like probably the other women are like, why are they fighting over a juice box and whatever? But like, there's obviously more. It was deeper. And
it's deeper.
Kiki has this moment where she's like I've apologized for this. Please stop reminding me that I threw a juice box at you. Like I didn't mean.
Yep.
I apologize. But like here's why I was angry. It triggered me in the way that I was raised. I lived in a house like that. You made
Yep.
fun of it essentially, or you weren't sensitive to it. And Lisa couldn't even really cop to that. She was like, I don't know what to say to that. I don't know what to say to that. I can't fix your childhood
She,
trauma. And
yeah.
that was
Bad news. Worst
hmm.
thing to
I kind
say.
of like stopped breathing for a
Me
second.
too. I was like, audible gasp. Like, you
Yeah,
just want to root for her so bad. And
I
then she
know.
does that. And it's like, well, that was fucked up.
Yeah, that was sort of like we talked about how these women like will move forward at all costs. But like that is a tough one to walk back and to explain. And it
Yep.
also just kind of proved Kiki's point of like it's all
Exactly.
she makes everybody's issues sort of like loop back to her own. And I do think Lisa's better than that. I think that Larsa was right. It's like she is so like in fight mode and like
Yeah.
and this is not to like excuse what she did. It's just sort of like to try to
No.
understand it. She's in this like fight mode and like she's just like in like protect the kids, protect my life, protect my money,
Constant
protect my
argument.
lifestyle,
Yeah.
all these things. And yeah, that is like all her, but that is kind of
Yep.
how she has to think for her personal life and it's bleeding over into everything else. But she has to
The shift
be
is hard.
but
Yeah.
she has to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like this is her
100% as a
job.
human.
Yeah. And as a friend, exactly. It's like this is where also it's like I one of my biggest things as like a person in the real world is like I don't want to be friends with people who don't ask about me. I don't want to be friends with people who
1000%.
who only talk about themselves and never ask me one question. You
Right.
know, and like that is like that's where I'm like, okay, these are they're still relatable. They might be fighting on a gondola ride in Mexico City, but
Dressed head to
preparing for a
toe.
pride performance that one of their friends is doing. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is like a very like core issue that people like deal with in real life.
Absolutely. Like, I think, I talk about that with my friends all the time. It's like you want people around you who care for you as much as you care for them. And
Yeah,
that's all the girls are saying to her. And she's just like total tunnel vision, like you said, trying to figure this out. And she can't get her out of ahead of it in front of
yeah,
herself.
100%. And the last thing I'll say about that little situation is like I thought it was interesting that kind of how we saw her on the Traders is Larsa sort of clocked what was going on between Lisa and Kiki like
Yep.
really kind of clearly and she explained it very coherently in her confessional. She
Yeah.
kind of held Lisa to task a little bit in that moment at the end of the episode where she's like, "No, Lisa, like you have to apologize. Like you fucked up."
Right.
Like as much as Larsa has done wrong this season by Gertie, and I
Yeah.
will, it's just an objective truth. There are these
100%.
moments where you're like, no, she does get it sometimes. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. I think actually Traders has been so good for Larsa because like it gives people the opportunity to see that like she's not all bad. Like she
Hmm.
does get it. She's kind of smart
Yeah,
and she is a good friend. Like while she has the poised, like monotone talk and doesn't, cry or get like extreme, she really does care and she wants to figure stuff out.
totally, totally. Is there anything else from Miami that's sort of standing out to you that you're like thinking about? Or I,
Honestly, I'm
yeah,
just like Next week we got Dr. Nicole meeting her dad's
Oh my
girlfriend, which is
God,
like
I'm
going to be
excited for that, but
another.
it's also
I can't
weird. It's a weird
sad,
watch.
yeah. So I'm like feeling a little nervous about
I know.
that because I love Nicole. But hopefully it'll end with the happy news that she is expecting.
I know. I'm curious how that all comes out, but I know
Yeah,
the scenes with her dad are like tough. They're tough.
tough.
We've only gotten a couple this season, but they're still
Yeah,
like, damn. Like, because they were just dealing with like, oh, should she meet his girlfriend? And it's like, well, now we know that he
they had
literally
no
like,
idea.
yeah, exactly. It's so sad. Okay, so let's move on to Vanderpump Rules. We're 2 episodes into this
Woo.
season. I've seen people online complaining that it's like boring and it's not giving what it needs to give. And
Relax.
relax. We're 2 episodes in. And
It
also
always
like,
is.
it's like, how do you expect them to follow up the intense, immense high that was the end of like, of
Exactly.
course it's gonna feel like a little bit deflated, but we're gonna blow air back into this balloon. You
We're
know what
gonna
I
work
mean?
it through. Yeah, I mean everyone like it's crazy. Like you have to adjust your expectations. It was never
Yes.
gonna be that again. You just have to be happy that it's back. We have 90% of the people back who are involved in this
Right.
scenario. And we're still getting more information. And I feel like people are forgetting the fact that, like, it's only 3 months after at that point.
Exactly. Oh my God. People are being so critical of Ariana in particular, of like, let it
Crazy.
go. Why do you still care? It's like, girl, like, she just found like 3 months ago, she found out about this. 3 months ago.
Right.
Like,
And I
please.
I do like the house of it all is like if I was her, I would obviously want to get out, but like we were just saying with Kyle and Mauricio, there's a lot of stuff in there that we don't know about and is like frankly not very exciting for TV.
No,
Like
no,
it's
it's
legal stuff.
minutia.
Like
It's minutia, legal,
yeah.
financial. Yeah, exactly. It's not
So
interesting. But I
no,
but
but
but I do find it interesting, like seeing how they actually are living in that house together. It's like,
it's insane.
like it's like maybe I'm just like it's just like the nerdy sort of like reality kind of person in me, but like I like the minutia and the particulars of like how they communicate through poor
The
Anne,
logistics.
and he
Yeah.
put this like weird white noise machine outside of his door because he thinks she's spying on him. And like I kind of like those little details. They're
Me
not
too. It's
dramatic, but like
hilarious.
yeah,
Like
it's
that's what makes what we were saying about Miami. Like they are real people. Like they're annoyed with one another. They're being petty, and it is not for the show. It's to piss each other off.
one of the funniest points of comparison on this season so far is when they cut from Tom Sandoval's very sad college dorm room esque
Oh my
bedroom
god,
to Ariana still in the primary suite with influencer gifting just like overflowing everywhere.
exploding!
It's hilarious
So
to
good,
me.
so funny, and it's just like some of the things he says. You're like, when you get to the point where it's like, okay, we are 3 months after, like, and he still doesn't get it. It's like,
I
oh,
know.
like you had a chance to redeem yourself a little bit. You're not the only one who's cheated on someone on this show.
Completely. No, he's totally flubbing it at every point. Like James Kennedy,
Total
even like
flub.
there was this confessional where he basically says, like, this is what I would want to hear from Sandoval. And it's a very like
Yeah.
to the point apology of like what he put James through via this whole situation. And he said it better than Sandoval has still ever said. I mean, if you watch
Right.
the Nick Vile podcast, which like I don't even want to
Trash.
get into, but
It was
like
a
it was so
disaster.
bad, but like he couldn't even then, almost a year later, coherently like say what he did was wrong. Like he just doesn't get it. He
He
never
doesn't
will.
get it. He
Yeah.
never will. And it showed too. I think Dylan on Bravo by Betches, our other buddy,
Yeah.
posted it. That scene where the confessional where Tom was like, I'm not drinking to wait for Raquel to get out, and then we could do it together. I'm like,
Oh my
dude,
God. Dude.
what is
Dude.
that?
And then in the after show, he still remember how last season, like before the whole thing broke, him and Ariana had that conversation where he was like, I just want to like have quality time together. Like, let's do mushrooms together. You remember that scene on the
I of
after show
course
for
remember that scene.
on the after show from this past episode? He was
Yeah,
like, yeah, she still wouldn't like do mushrooms with me. Like he's still saying the same fucking things.
he is
And
such. Oh,
it's
it's
maddening.
it's
And
maddening.
like on the one hand, I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's just leaning into being the villain at this point. And in
As he
that,
should if that's
yeah,
his route.
in that one thing, I'm like, you know what? good for him. Like we need a villain.
We need one.
Rachel excused herself, so you know what? We do need a villain. And if Sandoval's down to be the villain, more power to him.
More power to him, 100%. Because Lala was the villain for a bit. She's toned it down. James was the villain. He's
Yep.
toned it down. Like, we do need one. And
Yeah, I know.
he has a chance to have like a villain redemption arc too. Not like redemption and we're going to love you again, but in the sense of like all those people on House of Villains this season, like, we love
Right.
them. We love watching them. Like,
Totally.
Corinne was the worst, but we were like, hell yeah, Corinne. Like,
Yeah, no, it's like
he has a chance of that.
yeah, he has a chance of like being sort of like an iconic bad person, but I don't
Yep,
know if he like is I don't know if he's like self-aware of like how he
yeah,
does that, how he can get to that point. But like, there's definitely an opportunity in there for him. That there's
for
no
sure.
question. There's no
He needs some
question.
people around him to help
What? Yeah,
mold that.
you mentioned that Lala has been a villain for us in the past. I'd even say that
Yeah,
in the premiere, they were like planting the seeds for that sort of return because she sends Rachel this voice note. She's being
yeah.
the devil's advocate, and as Ariana said, the devil doesn't need any more advocates. But I think in
Good
the
one.
second episode it's less like villain and more just like the friend with the hard truths almost.
Yeah,
Like, what do you make of the Lala of it all this season? How she's sort of holding it to Ariana in a certain way.
I think it's fair. I mean, Lala's gone through some shit, and she's another one similar to Erica. Like, she's tough and she says it how it is,
Yeah.
and she's had like a lot of change in her perspective of life. Where like I think she has a right to tell Ariana like, you won, like you got it, like just go and be you. Like I
Hmm.
think Lala actually is probably one of the only people who can see like Raquel at rock bottom and Ariana on top of the world, as she says. Like, Lala's like, just go do it, leave it alone. And then she does have her heart that she feels bad because she's not skewed
Right.
by drinking and all that
Yeah.
stuff anymore.
No, I totally see it. I'm just curious, like if it will at some point cross a line or feel too sympathetic to say. I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Ariana in today, February 2024, like I feel like she's made a couple comments on Instagram and things to point out that like
Yeah,
she's actually pretty fine with it. Like Lala can it's her
totally.
prerogative. So it seems like there nothing ever like sort of is a straw that breaks the camel's back. But I'm just curious
Yes.
sort of
I'm glad
how
about
that
that
looks.
though.
Yeah, me too. Oh, I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
The last thing about Vanderpump Rules, my MVPs right now, Assistant Anne and Allie. They are to me, I'm like obsessed with
The
Allie.
A's. They are
The,
A plus and
Abby
Allie.
and Abby, Allie, and Anne, baby. The three A's. It's
Yes, triple A.
they're giving. They're giving.
Giving. Anne is hilarious. Like this poor woman. I would like, I need her on a tell all
I know.
immediately.
I literally DM'd her and I was like, "Do you want to do an interview?"
Yes.
She hasn't opened it, but TBD. She has her own
Wait,
podcast now, apparently. But like, I'd
who
love to
doesn't?
interview
But
her. Yeah,
on Bravo, they're all like,
I know.
but I don't blame them. We listen to all of them. We love it.
Oh yeah,
And Anne's would be top notch for me. But Anne star unexpected star of the
unintentional
show,
star. Yes.
unintentional star. And Allie, like, I ended last season being like, Allie is a lot smarter than she gets credit for. She sniffed out the whole
Hmm.
situation. She has very like pointed things she says in her
Yes.
confessionals where you know she's clocked it, but she's not trying to start shit. She is just like a
She's smart.
lovely, wonderful, smart, funny, like
Oh
puts
my
up with
God.
James, like
Yes.
love.
And she's almost like unintentionally shady. Like when she's like, I think Schwartz could use a reading because he could use a little direction in his life. And like, but
So
like you believe
funny.
that like one, she's right. Two, she means it from a good place. She means it like
Yeah.
well intentioned, but it's also kind of backhanded, and I love that. And
And
then
it's
and then
funny.
one of my favorite moments of the entire season so far was when they're leaving Sandoval's house. She's been in this BMW like double parked as James Kennedy like went in for like five
So
minutes.
good.
He comes out to pee in Sandoval's bushes before he leaves, like stick it to the man, you know, in a real
Yeah.
big
You
way.
really got him.
And she's like, "Don't. That's also Ariana's bush," which I had to like. She's so sweet,
Love.
but like also, I don't know. I just really am loving her.
I think she's super underestimated. And I
Yeah,
love
me
that,
too.
like, now that I'm seeing people are catching those little moments of her and she's getting her star, like,
Yeah,
to shine. And I'm like, Glad.
Yeah, she's going to be like a little Greek chorus, like comedic relief at some point of the season, which I
Yep,
think is going to be really fun to see from her and like kind of grow
for
her
sure.
presence. Yeah.
And I think her and James are
Oh my God,
adorable.
they're great. Like
Yeah.
only they could rock matching sets on a walk in the middle of the street, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Right. And me not give a full eye roll and be like,
Yeah, exactly.
really?
Exactly.
It was just like,
Exactly.
that's adorable. They're
Yeah.
adorable.
Love that for
They're
them.
happy.
Them
Yep.
by the Burbank airport. Okay, so let's
The plane.
talk a little bit about Real Houses of Atlanta, which you recently binged
Yes.
from the beginning, which
Oh my
very quickly,
goodness.
very impressed by that journey that you were on. Because after a long sort of like silence, like there was like a bout of radio
Yeah.
silence from the network, from everybody sort of around this show. There were like different reports that were like, we're gonna get a full shakeup, and then
Right.
and then there was another one that was like, it's gonna be more of like a half shakeup, and it's like, okay, like who's making it
What is
back?
it?
Because there are so many players in the Atlanta Housewives universe that like
For sure.
are like beloved. They're amazing at their jobs, but it
Yep.
really is about finding the right formula of all those people together,
The
really. You know what I
combo.
mean?
For sure.
And so Candy announced on the Grammys red carpet that she is not returning to the show, which is a little bit of a flex, like her using like it's a red carpet interview to do that. Loved
For
that for
sure.
her. I'm gonna miss her on the show though. She's on for
Right.
14 seasons. So,
Incredible length of
oh my God,
housewife. Like she is
it's
top
amazing.
tier.
She had a
Yeah.
great run. I think that she kind of implied that like she might have for the past couple seasons she was like half in half out a little bit, and we
Yeah.
saw that on the show. So I think it's actually, you know what, take yourself out, go do your other opportunities, and like
For
if
sure.
those continue for years to come, stay off the show. But if like you know some of them end up not working out, or like you
Yeah.
it dries up a little bit, come back. Like I
Come
it
back.
feels like it's a very kind of positive exit from the show, and there's a welcome back
Completely.
for her, I think.
I agree. You rarely see a housewife leave and know that she will always have a home back on the show.
100%. And she's not going to shit talk the network either. You know what I
Never.
mean?
She's way too smart for that.
No, she's so smart. So, okay, it's all fresh for you though.
Yeah.
What was how quickly did you binge all
It
15,
took
14 seasons?
like I would say like 5 months.
That's like really fast.
It was fast. Well, I did because I had seen here and there. So there were some that I could just like have in the
Got it. Got
background.
it.
Like
Got
I
it.
didn't have to
You weren't
sit
like
and
tapped in,
watch.
plugged in, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
taking notes. But yeah, it was I think I started last July and I ended in December, January.
Wow.
So 5, 6 months. But it's easily like
One of the
if
it's
not the best, one of the best. Like
absolutely.
it's everything. And to your point about like the amount of people who are so loved, there are very few that people hate.
Right.
Like it's crazy. They have
Hmm.
such a deep breath of amazing stars, and like they could have two full casts and they
Totally.
would both
And
work.
sometimes the cast were nine or 10 women with friends of, and
Right.
it was like, but they were all serving their purpose. And that's what's
Mm-hmm.
so great about Atlanta. And that also what made sort of like the last two seasons, I would say, like kind of sad and disappointing, because like
Yeah.
they just there are elements there that they could bring in to improve it. So
Right.
with Candy out, the rumors are
Yep.
swirling that Portia and Kenya are going to be sort of like the pillars of this, whatever this new cast is.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel extremely good about that. Like, I feel as I was watching, like, I obviously knew what happened with Portia, but during my binge, like, seeing that and then watching Portia's Family Matters and then just like never getting any clarity about like
Yeah,
where she went, I was like, I get that she needed to take her time. It was like a lot at once, but I need like her back to finish her story or continue her story. And as you know, I watch all of these ridiculous reality shows. So, of course, watch Stars on Mars. And she was so good on that. Like,
I
she was
didn't watch.
hilarious and made it like almost to the end and was just like such a team player. And like, you could tell like her pettiness was still there, but like, it was like smart shade. And I'm like, we
Yeah,
need her back. And the history of her in Kenya is just
totally. It's like that they
so
have
good.
so much history that it's like it would there's this sort of like like I don't know, like really like
Enemies to
epic. Yeah,
frenemies
there's
to
this
best
really
friends
epic
to,
arc that would be
yeah,
represented in those two pillars, sort of guiding us forward. And you know,
yeah,
I was frustrated with Portia after she pulled herself out, because it was sort of
yeah.
like she clearly wanted to avoid the smoke that was coming from like around how she and her husband got together and all
Yep.
these
And
things. And like, because she had
yep.
just had this like amazing arc of like going from this woman
Right.
who like people thought was just like some dumb trophy wife to like being this
Yep.
like really empowered activist, like comedic relief on the show. Like she became a queen and then like it would have quickly gone fully downhill if she had
Oh
that next
yeah.
season would have been a Portia takedown season. So
It would have been a
it
disaster
was
for her.
frustrating, but she was smart to do what she did. And she was great on Girls Trip as well. I thought she was kind of one of the
Yes.
bright lights of that not great season. And
Agreed.
so I think that if she comes back, we're checking in with her new family, stable family
Right.
life, and she avoided the smoke. I'm sure people will still ask her about it. Like, I'm sure Kenya or somebody will be the one who is like, okay, well, you pulled yourself out for 2 seasons while we had to still deal with the scrutiny.
Yep.
She's gonna have moments, but I think that she probably knows how to deal with those. She has the
I
answer
agree.
already. You know what I mean?
I think she already has the answer. And I also think Kenya is very smart as well and will know to not use Portia, but have Portia as part of her good side because
Right.
the rest are all, some are so new, they don't get it. Like Kenya and Portia can be very powerful together if
Right.
they can work
Who
together.
who do you want to like stay on the show? Is there somebody else you would realistically want to come back? Because people keep saying Nene, but she's
I'm
not
like,
going to come back.
she's
Like obviously
not.
I would love that, but like
Yeah.
we're
I
ways
mean,
away from that
I
forever
would
happening.
100% take Cynthia back.
Okay.
I think that she is another one where it's just like she
She's an
has those
icon.
one-liners. She's funny. Like she's kind of like a little bit of a Luann to me, where that she's just
Mm,
like so self-delusional that like it's like adorable, and you're just
right.
like you're
I see
great.
that.
But I also think we need some more from Drew because of everything that
Mm.
happened with her. Like we need to see a little more of that.
See, I'm good on Drew. I agree on Cynthia,
Okay,
but to me, like I just don't think that Drew ever
has
really
the
told us the
answer.
truth. I just don't
Yeah.
think she really told us the truth. Like kind of in like
If
a
she
Jen
came back and
Shaw-y
told us
way.
the truth, would
But
you be
like
in?
I don't know. I think she kind of I feel like she lied to us for 3 seasons or whatever. And like
That's fair.
I'm good on Drew, but Cynthia would be great. And then
Of
honestly,
course.
I love Marlo, but I think maybe she needs a break too a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that she kind of lost the plot a little bit in terms of how she should act on the show. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against. I love Marlo, so I would love for her to
Me
like come
too.
back in any capacity. But to make this next season really work, I don't know if Kenya's like down to work with her right now. You know what I
I
mean?
agree. I agree. But I do think like if it is a Cynthia, a Sheree, a Portia, a Kenya, like we might need like a Marlo in
Yeah, you're
there to
right. Yeah,
be
to break
like
it up, right?
to break it up.
Well,
Like that it
the
would be like Kenya
other
and the softies.
totally the other element that Andy Cohen said on his radio show after the next day after Candy left, or 2 days
Okay.
after, he had like done the first day, he did this like really long tribute, which was really lovely. Go listen to it if you have
So
not.
nice.
The next day, he was like, okay, so Candy left, like that allows us to work with some other puzzle pieces. And to me, that obvious other puzzle piece is Phaedra, who
Yep.
who the network has been kind of slowly amping up her
Yeah.
presence on its properties. First, it was like a cameo in Dubai. And then it was, okay, she's on Girls Trip season 2 where she stole the show. And then
Stole the show.
she gets cast on Married to Medicine. And she's also on The Traitors. And it's not really
Yep.
totally working on, you're not caught up on Married to Medicine. I know
Not
you're
yet.
struggling with your binge of Married to Medicine. I know that.
Yes.
But she's
We'll
on that
get
show
there.
and she's not fully plugged into that cat. It's like not totally working, I would say, but
Right.
she's amazing on The Traitors. So it's sort of like
Amazing.
they clearly want to keep working with Miss Phaedra Parks. So
As one
I
should.
wonder if she is that puzzle piece that they would move back over to.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, and that is so Andy to give us that Easter egg of like, oh, so if it's Candy that left, then
Right.
legally we could have
Totally.
Phaedra back.
Totally.
Like,
It's like because it's like
I
one's
think
Married to
that would be
Medicine's all
amazing.
Married to Medicine just filmed the reunion. The season's almost done. The Traitors is gonna finish airing in
And hopefully she
March.
wins.
Right. Hopefully she wins. We're Team Phaedra over here. And then the other thing to me is like there are some stars from Married to Medicine that aren't really within the group anymore on that show.
Okay.
I think I would love if they brought Quad over there because Quad was had this amazing run on Married to Medicine. Then they
Yeah.
just basically outcasted her this season, and she's like kind of. It's
Okay.
unclear if she's even like going to be back on the show. She went to the reunion, but she lives in Atlanta. She knows these women. She's a huge star. Put her on the Atlanta slight
I'm
reboot.
obsessed with that.
Yeah,
Especially as like she can come in as a friend of Phaedra,
totally.
and Phaedra would just be, she doesn't have to come in as a
Yeah,
friend.
no,
She'd just be a reinstated housewife.
so there's some star power there. Listen,
Yes.
put us on
Wait, I think
casting.
we have our
I
cast.
think we do
So we
too.
have Kenya, Portia,
Cynthia,
Cynthia,
Sheree, Cynthia, yeah. Phaedra,
Phaedra,
Quad, and then I think
Quad,
one new
Quad, and
housewife,
one new
and
housewife.
and like a friend of or something.
Maybe Quad and Marlo are friends
Oh,
of.
okay, there we go. And then I think I
And then
want
a
one
new.
new. Yeah, one new.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Done. Call us,
Real Houses
Andy.
of Atlanta next season. Exactly. Okay, Abby. So I mean, I said we could talk about the traders at the end, but I think we've been going for almost an hour, and we have a new
we could
episode
go
coming.
for two more.
Yeah, this is coming out tomorrow, but we're recording this before we have the new episode. So
Oh,
at some point we'll talk about the traders.
for
But this
sure.
has been so much fun. There's
So much fun.
Listen, I think that like there's this idea that like coming up, there's gonna be a little bit of a dry spell on Bravo because we just have like Jersey and Dubai. But
Yeah.
I can if we get some good season, like a really good season of Atlanta, a really good season of OC coming up, I can wait. I can
We have
wait.
Summer House.
We have Summer House coming in a couple weeks, so we're
Yep.
still being fed. We're still being
We're
fed.
still being fed. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get like maybe a new girls trip announcement now that all
Yes,
the
would
stuff
love that.
happened with the last
Would
one.
love
We
that.
need, maybe that's why we should pitch our legacy and New
Oh,
York
there we go. Okay,
trip.
we have our pitch meeting deck ready to
Yep.
go. Okay,
Perfect. Call us.
Well, Abby, what can you plug? Where can people find you on socials? What do your plugs before we sign off?
Yeah, on TikTok, I'm Abs Bond doing my flow charts and
Yes.
all things reality TV. Instagram, full name at Abby Bonides, and I'm also threading my daily thoughts as well.
Threads fam.
Threads fan, big time. So find me there too, and we can chat, voice note, all the things. And hopefully we'll do this again soon.
We absolutely will. Abby,
Yay.
It's been a pleasure. So much fun, and we'll chat again soon.
Yay.
I want to gab.